The signal was annoying. It pulsed at uneven intervals, like an indecisive heartbeat, and it had been taunting Cal Rayner for the past 2 hours through his helmet's auditory feed. He'd tried adjusting the range filters, realigning the dish, even smacking the side of his transmitter like it owed him money. Nothing worked. It was still there. Not strong enough to be a distress call, not random enough to be background radiation, but just peculiar enough to annoy the hell out of him. He stood on a bluff overlooking a valley of black stone and copper-veined rock, under a sky so purple it looked like bruised glass. Viralda 9, a planet that hadn't even earned a name in the Union database, just a catalog number and a red mark that meant probably uninhabited. Probably, he hated that word. Okay, probably, he muttered. You win. He activated his terrain scanner and began the trudge down. The rock crunched underfoot like dried bones, and the occasional spire jutted from the earth at odd angles, like fingers trying to claw their way out. He tried not to think about that too hard. His boots hissed with every step as the auto-seal system compensated for shifting gravity. His exosuit had seen better days, and so had he. At the base of the valley, the signal strengthened, then pulsed twice, an intentional rhythm. Morse-like, definitely artificial. He stopped. There was a figure up ahead, standing, no sitting, cross-legged on a flat stone slab, perfectly still. Cal's first reaction was, great hallucinations. Again. Then she turned her head. He froze. No weapon, no radio ping, no suit scanner detecting her presence. She looked human. Almost. Pale skin, hair so white it shimmered faintly blue under the ambient light. And those ears, long and slender, angled slightly backward like wind-sculpted leaves. They twitched when she noticed him. I was looking for you, she said. He blinked. That's a hell of an opening line. Did you rehearse that? She tilted her head slightly, eyes narrowing with something between curiosity and assessment. You're not what I expected. Neither are you, he said. Unless the Girl Scout uniform has had a major redesign lately. Her brow furrowed. I don't know what that means. Good, it wasn't that funny anyway. She rose to her feet in one smooth motion, the folds of her matte black garment flowing like liquid. No visible seams, not Union tech, not any tech he knew. It shimmered faintly as she stepped toward him. Your name is Cal Rayner, she said. I don't wear a name tag, you spying on my ship. She shook her head. Your name is in our archives, passed down. Passed down from who? Ancestors, she said. He scratched his neck. Okay, look, I'm flattered, really. If I'm in some ancient prophecy or whatever, that's adorable, but I think you've got the wrong guy. I'm just here to scan rocks and pretend my life is exciting. You match the sequence, she replied, like that settled everything. Sequence. Gene-metric alignment, neural waveform, dream resonance. Cal held up a hand. Okay, stop. You're stacking sci-fi buzzwords and I'm trying to keep up, but I left my translator for nonsense in the ship. I can show you. Is this the part where you lead me into a glowing cave, and I get infected with destiny? She didn't smile, not yet, but she turned and started walking. Cal stared after her. The signal in his ear pulsed again. Slower now, like it was waiting. He groaned. This is how horror movies start, he muttered and followed. They walked for 10 minutes through increasingly jagged terrain, until they reached a crevice in the rock that pulsed faint light, soft blue glows like breath. She descended without hesitation, her footing perfect. Cal nearly broke an ankle. Inside, the air changed. It was cooler, quieter. The walls shimmered with unknown circuitry, ancient and dormant, like someone had carved a spaceship into the bones of a mountain and then abandoned it for 1,000 years. At the center of the chamber stood a pedestal. It woke up when he stepped near. Lines of light snapped across the walls. Symbols spiraled into view, some looked familiar, vaguely resembling Union script, others completely alien. Holographic data streamed around the pedestal in lazy orbits. This is your echo, she said. Echo of what? My last haircut, because I regret that one. This is where we found your image, she replied, eyes fixed on the floating data. A vision encoded in light, from before the memory fell. Right, so someone time-traveled and took a selfie with me. That explains my luck. She stepped closer to the projection. The prophecy speaks of a Skyborn who fell into shadow and woke the sleeping world. I'm not Skyborn, I'm barely employed. Your sarcasm is excessive. Yeah, well, so is your prophecy. Silence stretched between them. Then unexpectedly she smiled. It wasn't wide and it wasn't practiced, but it was real. He blinked. Did I just make an alien joke? You made 3, only one was moderately successful. I'll take it. She turned to the projection and reached into the center. Her fingers brushed a sphere of light that pulsed, turned gold, then shifted into an image, a constellation map, points connected in spirals. Cal recognized some of them. That's near the Phalanx corridor, he said, stepping closer. Where it all began, she said, and where it must return. He exhaled slowly. This was too much, too weird, and yet the dots were connecting. He couldn't explain why, but the shape of the pattern made sense in his head. Like a melody he'd heard once in a dream, she looked at him. You're not here by accident. You're seriously telling me I'm supposed to, what, fulfill a vision? Save your people? No, she said, you're supposed to help us remember. That's not nearly as dramatic. But more important. He ran a hand through his hair. Okay, Elira or whoever you are, I don't do chosen one stuff. I do mid-level survey missions and emergency repairs on malfunctioning toilets. You're here, she said simply. That's enough. He stared at the map, then back at her, and against all better judgment he asked, what happens next? She smiled again. We leave this place. To go where? To the stars. He sighed. You really need to work on your pitch. Maybe open with snacks next time. I have rations. He perked up. You should have started with that. The ship didn't fly so much as glide through space like it had been bribed not to obey physics too closely. Cal sat in the co-pilot's seat. Chewing on something Elira had insisted was a nutritional wafer, but tasted suspiciously like desiccated shoe leather. He had eaten worse, once, on a bet, in college. So this thing, he said, gesturing at the transparent control interface glowing under Elira's fingers, runs on thought. Neural resonance feedback loop, she replied without looking. It links to my biofield. Right, so thought. You can simplify it that way if you need to. I do, he said, trying not to choke on the last bit of the wafer. Your snack game is terrible, by the way. They weren't meant for human digestion. No kidding. I think my tongue just applied for early retirement. Elira made no comment. She was studying the trajectory on the display. The navigation map was unlike anything Cal had seen. Constellations built in shifting geometries, not just spatial coordinates but temporal overlays. It was beautiful and deeply confusing. We're headed to Outpost Rilthar, she said. It was the last functioning archive before the cycle began to fail. Cal leaned back. I don't suppose there'll be air, food, or anything remotely not trying to kill us. No. Perfect. I love vacations. The ship's drive core hummed as it initiated a slip jump. Stars stretched, then folded. The interior of the vessel briefly shimmered with static light as time smeared around them. Cal looked out into the void, watching space ripple like fabric dipped in oil. Slip jumps smoother than Union tech, he said. Union ships still rely on field displacement. This ship adapts space-time curvature instead of resisting it. See, you say stuff like that, and it almost sounds like you want me to understand it. I'm trying, she said. Try harder, maybe with interpretive dance. Noted. They emerged from the jump with a soft ripple. Ahead floated Rilthar, a spherical construct covered in what looked like hexagonal plates fused together by time and vacuum. It wasn't orbiting a planet or even a star, just floating in the cold, forgotten dark. Looks like someone built a honeycomb out of paranoia, Cal said. Security was prioritized. This outpost stored ancestral consciousness fragments. I'm going to pretend that's not as creepy as it sounds. They docked on a platform that extended from the structure like a lazy tongue. The airlock responded to Elira's presence with a flicker of blue light, then hissed open. Inside was darkness, followed by a gentle hum, like a distant chorus holding its breath. They stepped into a chamber lit by shifting strips of bioluminescent fibers. The walls were smooth and warm, pulsing occasionally with soft light. Cal's scanner refused to identify any material composition. "This place feels alive," he said. "It is." The archive was semi-organic, designed to evolve with the memories it stores. "You people don't do anything halfway, do you?" They passed doorways sealed with shimmering energy curtains. As they approached one, Elira placed her palm on a panel. It scanned her, then displayed a rotating glyph, an angular spiral flanked by starbursts. "What's that?" Cal asked. "My house sigil. It recognizes my access." "Wait, house. Like nobility. Does that matter?" "Well, now I'm wondering if I should be bowing or something. Do you have a crown hidden under all that stoicism?" "I have authority," she said, stepping through the field. "That will be enough. Remind me not to challenge you to a game of laser chess." Inside the chamber was a circular dais surrounded by arching pillars. Between them hovered translucent discs, memory petals, Elira called them. They shifted as she moved, some drifting toward her, others slowly rotating away. Cal reached toward one and it gently avoided his hand. "Okay, I'm feeling left out." "They respond to familial resonance," she explained. "Try speaking to it." "What, like, 'Hey there, memory petal, wanna hang out?'" "That will not work." "Figured." Elira touched one of the petals and it flickered to life, showing an image. A figure in armor not dissimilar from Elira's build, standing next to a human. Not just any human. "Wait, that guy, he looks like me." "He is you, or your predecessor, the Skyborn of the first Bond." Cal stared at the image. The resemblance was uncanny. Same eyes, same scar above the brow. He rubbed his forehead. "This is the part where I freak out, right?" "If you must." "Okay, I'm freaking out," calmly. He backed away. Another petal floated closer, glowing faintly. Elira hesitated. "That one's unstable," she warned. "Of course it is." The petal opened anyway. A voice played, distorted, emotional, speaking in a language Cal didn't know but understood. "They will forget, but the bond endures." Then the petal cracked, shimmered, and disintegrated into light. Cal took a step back. That didn't sound very hopeful. That was one of the last entries before the archive was locked. Locked by who? "By my ancestor. She sealed the cycle to prevent the Harbinger from waking." Cal blinked. "I'm sorry, can we rewind? Harbinger, waking. Why does every ancient species have some kind of cosmic horror nap schedule?" Elira turned to him. "The Harbinger isn't horror, it's order. A sentient construct designed to stabilize entropy, but over time it began to see life as chaos." "Oh, so cosmic bureaucracy, that's worse." She didn't disagree. They left the chamber as the petals dimmed behind them. The station groaned slightly, as if waking from its own slumber. "We need to go," Elira said. "This place won't stay dormant." "How comforting." Back on the ship, Cal collapsed into the seat. "So let me summarize," he said. "I'm somehow genetically tied to your people. There's a cosmic machine that thinks we're clutter, and your memory petals play creepy voice messages like haunted greeting cards." "Essentially. And the plan is, we go to the next archive. It holds the key to redirecting the Harbinger logic core." Cal sighed. "Can we stop for food first?" "I have more wafers." "I'd rather eat the chair." "That would be inefficient." "You're learning sarcasm," he said. She didn't respond, but she smiled, just a little. Cal was not a fan of floating tombs, especially not ancient ones drifting through asteroid clouds and muttering in dead languages. He clutched the side rail as Elira's ship bobbed through a slow weave between spinning debris, each chunk of rock barely missing the hull. The shields buzzed irritably every few seconds like they were swatting flies. "Are you sure this place is safe?" he asked as another chunk of space boulder skidded along the shield. "No," Elira said, "but it is necessary. That's my favorite kind of danger, the required kind." The destination ahead was a hollowed-out moon, or what used to be one. It had been carved into a sphere with overlapping layers, like a massive onion built by paranoid engineers. The outer shell rotated slowly in segments, revealing access ports that opened and closed on their own schedule. The archive of Dren houses the entropy algorithm, Elira said. We'll need it to recalibrate the Harbinger's logic. Right, logic. The thing that wants to reorganize the universe by erasing anything with emotions. That is one interpretation. Great, mine usually involves screaming. They docked with the outer ring and stepped into a narrow corridor made entirely of blackened crystal. Cal tapped one of the walls and watched it vibrate slightly, sending a ripple of pale light down the corridor. I'm guessing that didn't activate a party mode. It's a security scan. See, I like to be told when I'm being scanned, especially when it's by architecture. A chime echoed ahead, and the corridor opened into a chamber filled with floating panels. Each one shimmered with shifting text and diagram overlays, rotating blueprints of constructs that hadn't existed for millennia. Elira navigated between them with practiced ease, brushing symbols and moving nodes with her fingers. Cal tried to follow, reached toward one of the panels, and it snapped closed with an angry chirp. Was that a digital slap? You don't have the clearance. Well, that's just rude. I didn't even get to browse. Elira reached the central core and touched a vertical array that buzzed and slowly unfolded into a three-dimensional projection of a star chart. Lines connected systems like circuit traces. One cluster was pulsing red. That's the Harbinger's anchor zone, she said. The convergence begins there. Cal stared. That's near Union space. Yes, if we don't interfere, your systems will be the first dissolved. Well, now it's personal. I have a really nice coffee machine back home. Then we move quickly. Cal watched as she locked in the coordinates and downloaded the entropy algorithm into a spherical containment core. As soon as she lifted it from its cradle, the entire archive shook. That's normal, right? No. Lights flickered. Walls rippled like disturbed water. A tone rang through the complex, flat, mechanical, and unpleasantly condescending. What's it saying? Unauthorized retrieval, defensive protocol engaged. Defensive as in polite disagreement or. Metallic limbs dropped from the ceiling, six-legged drones with glowing red center. Back the way we came. Brilliant through the death corridor. They sprinted, dodging limbs and leaping over the fractured remnants of floating archives. One drone latched onto Cal's leg, and he instinctively kicked it against the wall. It exploded in a puff of static and insulted him in binary. Even their dying words are mean. They reached the docking hatch as the archive behind them began to collapse in slow motion. Elira initiated launch, and the ship detached just before the docking ring imploded. Okay, Cal gasped. That was too much library drama for one day. Elira didn't respond. She was staring at the containment core. It pulsed steadily like a heartbeat. What's it doing? It's syncing to your field. Mine, no. No, I didn't sign up for any syncing. You touched a pedal in Rilthar, she said. It left a signature. The core is responding to it. So now I'm a walking encryption key. Partially. That's a terrible thing to be. I lose my keys all the time. The core pulsed again, brighter. It projected a faint image of two intertwined spirals like DNA loops, but shifting constantly. What's that? An echo of the original bond, Elira said. It's adapting to both of us. I don't want it adapting to me. I barely adapt to me. You'll need to connect with it if we're to reach the Harbinger. Define connect, emotionally. Wi-Fi, what are we talking here? Mind-link fusion of intent. That sounds suspiciously like a bad idea with extra steps. You'll survive. That's not as comforting as you think. The ship entered a new jump sequence and the stars stretched again. Cal stared at the containment core and then at Elira. So, if I survive this, does that make me an honorary alien? You're already halfway there, she said. He grinned. I'll take it, but I'm not giving up coffee. Then we have a deal. Cal was doing his best not to panic, which for him meant making jokes no one asked for while an ancient moon-sized machine loomed in front of their ship like it wanted a word with the manager. The Harbinger wasn't glowing or moving or menacing in any theatrical way. It just existed, monolithic, silent, thinking. "Okay," Cal said, hands gripping the console, "I'm going to go ahead and say it. That thing looks like a toaster that achieved godhood." "It's not a toaster," Elira replied. I know, it's a universal entropy regulator, but still, if it pops out galactic bagels, I won't be shocked." "It can hear you." "Then I hope it has a sense of humor, because I'm not emotionally prepared to get deleted by a grumpy cosmic appliance." Elira didn't respond. She was focusing on the core. It pulsed steadily now, matching the rhythm of Cal's own heartbeat, which was deeply unsettling. He tried not to think about the fact that an ancient alien memory storage egg had bonded to his cardiovascular system like it was downloading his soul. "All right," he said, "talk me through the plan again. Slowly, like I'm someone who got a C- in astrophysics and a D in connecting with cosmic entities." "We use the algorithm from Dren to override the Harbinger's entropy directive," she said. "But its interface is locked. It requires a dual imprint, yours and mine, to access its decision matrix." "Right, because I'm the discount copy of some ancient guy your people saw in a vision, and you're a space princess with Wi-Fi in her brain." "That's close enough. And this linking process, you said it involves syncing our intent, which sounds suspiciously like mind fusion." "It is briefly." "Define briefly." "Time will be nonlinear during the link." "So a maybe 5-minute eternity. Wonderful." Elira held up the core. It floated from her palm, hovered between them, and then began to expand, unfolding like petals of light. Symbols spiraled outward in sequences Cal couldn't read but somehow understood. "You need to focus on one thought," she said. "One clear intention." "Okay, not dying. Is that a strong enough intention?" She looked at him for a moment, then surprisingly smiled. "It will do." The light engulfed them. For a brief second, Cal felt like his thoughts were being untangled and refiled. Emotions unfolded like paper. Memories, sounds, regrets, all drifting upward like they were being sorted. He didn't see Elira next to him. He saw her through him, or maybe within him. It was hard to tell. She was standing on a cliff of light, looking down at a world made of memory. His childhood dog was there. So was his college dorm, orbiting a star made of peanut butter sandwiches. Her mind was way more organized, crystalline libraries full of luminous thoughts. One labeled Cal Rayner was rapidly expanding and possibly leaking sarcasm. "You're very noisy," her voice echoed. "You've got a dream folder titled Backup Planetary Stabilization Protocols. I feel judged." "Focus." "Write one clear thought." He focused on Earth, on his sister's laugh, on the way his old ship hummed in the mornings, on Elira's quiet nod when she trusted him for the first time. That was enough, apparently. The scene shifted. The Harbinger's core opened before them, not physically but conceptually. A galaxy unfolded in its mind, stars, civilizations, timelines all suspended in golden threads. A voice, ancient and emotionless, rippled through them. Identity, fractured. Input requested. Elira stepped forward in the thought space. Directive, stabilization through symbiosis. Cal followed, half confident. Alternative protocol, not erasing everyone. Maybe have a snack instead. The Harbinger considered. Entropy equals necessity. Order is not survival, Elira said. Survival is change. Yeah, Cal added. And sometimes change means letting people mess up and learn. You know, like when I shorted out my training shuttle's nav system and had to land it using a half-eaten taco as a rudder. Long story. Neural sync detected. Contradiction present. That's us, Cal said. Walking contradictions. Adaptation integrated. The stars folded in. The entropy pattern recompiled. A new directive spiraled into place, one that acknowledged chaos not as failure but as transformation. Then the mind space collapsed. Cal snapped back into his body like a rubber band. The ship lights were flickering. The core floated between them, now dormant. Outside, the Harbinger had changed. Still and vast, yes, but the pulse had slowed. No more deletion beams, no more ominous vibrations. So, did we win? Cal asked, voice hoarse. It accepted the update. Cool, so now it won't wipe out half the galaxy. Unlikely. That's the most optimistic you've ever sounded. I'm adapting. He slumped back. Tell me we're going somewhere with gravity and chairs that don't try to read your brain. There's a moon outpost nearby. Do they serve real food? They have protein spheres. I will take that as a no. Elira turned the ship. The stars outside were calm again, for now. Cal stared at the core, now dull and lifeless, and exhaled. Well, he said, if I'm going to be haunted by a glowing alien orb for the rest of my life, at least I'm haunted with company. You're not haunted, she said. Yeah. You're chosen. He groaned. I liked haunted better. She didn't answer, but this time when she smiled, it didn't feel like protocol. Cal sat on a rock that wasn't technically a rock. It was a semi-sentient mineral node that hummed softly every time he put weight on it. The Elari called it a listening stone. He called it Bob. It didn't complain. The sky overhead glowed with soft waves of magenta, broken by streaks of orbital drift from the nearby moons. Elira stood a few meters away, conversing in a calm tone with a group of elders who looked like they hadn't blinked in a century. I swear, Cal muttered, if one more ancient person calls me the vessel, I'm going to start charging royalties. Bob hummed sympathetically. The journey had ended here, on the surface of a reawakened Elari conclave world, hidden for centuries, now open, now watching. The Harbinger had gone dormant again, its directive rewritten, its vast systems recalibrating the math of the cosmos with a little more chaos and a little less genocide. Cal wasn't entirely sure what that meant long-term, but no one had evaporated in a beam of light lately, so he was calling it a win. Elira returned and sat beside him. Bob hummed in approval. The elders accept the cycle has changed, she said. That's a fancy way of saying they're not throwing me into a star, Cal said. They're adjusting. You've altered a great many things. Yeah, I get that a lot. Usually in the context of breaking vending machines. She looked out across the valley. The air shimmered with low-gravity bursts, gentle ripples where old structures were reactivating, rebuilding themselves molecule by molecule. Elira's people had technology that could sing metal into existence. Cal had a multi-tool that sparked if he breathed on it wrong. I don't feel like a myth, he said after a while. You never were, she replied. I was just a guy who got stuck on a weird planet and made a lot of jokes to avoid screaming. And still, you changed everything. That's what scares me, he said. I didn't do anything heroic. I didn't fight a war or save a planet with a blaster. I just listened, connected. That was all we needed. He leaned back, hands behind his head. So what now? I'm part alien now or just honorary? Somewhere in between. I'll take it. Can I still keep my union pilot license? That depends on how many regulations you violated. Probably all of them. They both fell into a quiet rhythm. The wind carried fragments of music, Elari harmonics used for communication and, apparently, celebration. A nearby childlike figure with long ears and luminous skin tossed a sphere of plasma between his hands like it was a game. Cal smiled. I think your people are growing on me. They've taken a liking to you as well. Probably because I didn't blow anything up. You nearly destabilized the core interface. Details. Bob hummed louder, clearly bored of small talk. Elira stood. They want to offer you something. Is it a ceremonial title? Because I already rejected Space Savior and Lightbringer of the Snack era. They want you to stay. Cal blinked. Stay like here. They believe your presence will help maintain the balance. You are a part of the rewritten code now. He hesitated. The thought of staying on a planet that pulsed with intelligent terrain and sang its history to the stars was surreal. But it didn't feel wrong. I'd miss Earth food, he said. Your ration wafers are an insult to flavor. They're improving the formula. I made suggestions. Did those suggestions include edible? Mostly. He laughed. Elira didn't, but the corner of her mouth twitched, which for her was basically a belly laugh. All right, he said. I'll stay, but only if I get a room with a view, and not one of those creepy energy spiral windows. I want actual glass. We don't use glass. Then start. They walked back toward the main structure, a tower that rebuilt itself daily, growing upward like a plant eager to touch the stars. As they approached, Cal noticed the same projection from the archive had been etched into the entryway. The intertwined spirals, DNA connection history. His and Elira's. The elders stood waiting. One of them held a small device, no larger than a palm. They handed it to Cal with reverence. What is it? He whispered. Memory seed, Elira said. They want you to grow your own archive. Cal turned it over in his hands. My memories. Yours and ours together. He nodded. Guess I'd better start making them count. Later he stood alone at the edge of a cliff, looking up at the stars. The Harbinger was still out there, dormant, balanced. And if it ever stirred again, he'd be ready. Not because he was the chosen one, but because he chose to be ready. Bob hummed contentedly beside him. You're a weird rock, Bob, Cal said. Bob sparkled. Cal grinned. Yeah, I'm glad I stayed too.